Kiviat? And he said yes, the email was from me, and yes, I'd like to make an offer to him to participate in an upcoming program that I have. And Jonathan told me, I don't care what he offers us. I don't care if it's $1 million or $1 billion. We're not doing it. About a month later, Kiviat contacted us again, and this time he wanted to do like a 1-hour special, and he was going to call it the Jonathan Reed Affair. And again, Jonathan said, I don't care. I really don't. I'm not out to sell this. This is not something I'm going to put in the hands of the media to twist and distort and to ruin, like they did the alien autopsy, like they'll do anything else they get their hands on.
One of the points that has been pointed out that his eyes have what's called a red eye effect, which is a reflection of the light coming in, which is almost an impossibility to fabricate, as I've been told. The texture of the skin was very dense, much like that of a pig. Not very elastic. He appeared old to me. You can see some of the vascular structure in his neck and his head. There have been some other medical physicians that have looked at these, stating that they felt the anatomy was adequate to sustain a being. It was very old looking to me in human terms. His skin was very dense, almost like pig skin. Not very elastic. His eyes were very large, very oval shaped, very much like what people have told me is a gray. Now remember, I was not an authority when it comes to this. I had nothing to reference anything with. And anything that I've learned about this, I've learned since this happened. And this was brought up by Cole a year ago.
Is that the third day after?
3.5 days. No, what you're watching is hours after I brought him home.
The eye transitioning from open to closed. It's not just an abrupt open to closed. You can see the transitions. There were people on the DNA analysis team that Dr. Reed, he took tissue and blood samples at the University of Washington. He had a couple people that he knew there. One happened to be a Dr. Roger Haggett. And Dr. Haggett agreed to do a DNA analysis of what Jonathan brought him. He had another research partner named Michael Wessels, Professor Michael Wessels, who was a research chemist there, who also volunteered to help. I knew about these individuals. I had never met them. I knew of them. I knew the names. I knew what they were doing. Dan McAvoy, who's sitting in between Robert and Jonathan, is going to talk about that in detail, but I just want to support what he's going to tell you, that I did know these individuals, and they are now dead. One was shot and killed in his office, and the other one was found at the bottom of a cliff in the Cascades.
This is the wound that was in the left side of his head. The skull was fractured. The skin was attached to the skull, the actual piece of skull. The membrane was penetrated. There was cranial matter and blood that I took samples of and that we had tested.
What caused the wound, please?
I hit him with a branch, a 5-foot branch, when I found him in the woods. I caused the wound. To let you know a little more about that, on the third day, I had set up an examination with someone from my university to come over and take a look, and that appointment was canceled abruptly. And I went back out to the garage to put away a table and some lights that I had set up for this viewing. And I heard a sound coming from underneath the freezer. And I thought the compressor must be going out. It sounded like a scratching sound as the compressor was running. And not knowing for sure what it was, or if it was rats or something else in my garage, I figured if I opened the freezer lid and looked at the thermometer, I could make that determination. When I opened the freezer, this thing sat up and screamed at me. From the end of the thermal blanket, it was moving, it was animated, and it was alive. And it screamed at me with such a scream that it forced the air, as if it forced the air against my chest. I could almost feel it. And I slammed the door and I went in the house, to say the least. Brains to go back out into the garage. We realized that it was breathing and it was moving, even though it was moving much slower than it was in the woods. It was definitely injured, and I feared for our life at that time. I figured we had a maimed creature, or as if it was an animal, and any animal would probably fight for its life at that point. But surprisingly enough, it moved very slowly, and after a while, it quit screaming. And I actually sat with this being for hours in my garage, where it would climb out of the freezer on its own and sit and look at me. And it probably thought I was as weird as I thought it was, maybe worse. I offered it water, and it took it. And then at one time later, it took the water from me and threw the cup at me. It was amazing. Anyway, once this thing became alive, I had an opportunity, not by choice, but by circumstance, to look at something that I never thought I would ever be able to see.